Right. So we can start, yeah? Okay, let's start, yeah, everybody. We already 64 persons today join our Zoom, and hopefully more participants will join, yeah, because this is very important session, because this is your second assignment. Okay, you already know that you will have to do 2 assignments. First one is individual assignment, which is writing learning journal. And this is the second assignment, is making a podcast. I already said to you, the podcast can be a group podcast. Yeah, it will be better if you do a group podcast of 3. Yeah, group of 3. Is it a group of 3, Mbak Fanya, the most suitable for group audio, for audio podcast?
It could be happen as well, but I think it can be consist from 3 until 5.
3
but
until 5.
more than 3 is also fine. Yeah.
Okay.
It depends with the group.
3 to 5. Okay, so 5 is still okay, yeah, Mbak Zefania, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, for 15 minutes. All right. Okay, then. If it is the case, I just leave it to you guys. If you want to expand your group to 5, it's okay. So 3 to 5, yeah, maximum 5 persons for the group podcast. Okay, but if you don't want to do group podcast, maybe you are just not used to, you at this moment you don't want to do group work. Maybe you want to do individual podcast. It's also okay. Yeah, it's all right. But I already said in the WhatsApp group that it will influence your final mark a little bit. Yeah, because we will give a more mark for they who can make a group podcast, because the aim of the summer course also, we want to encourage all students to make new friends, to make networking with students to in other countries, other institutions, yeah, rather than you just making crowd with your own friends. Okay. So yeah, okay, that's it. Okay. And your podcast topic is about reducing carbon footprints, and it's free of choice for you, if from which perspective you want to capture this topic. Okay, so now Mbak Zefania today will deliver how to make podcast. Okay, and see, Mbak Devana is a young and dynamic person, and it's, this kind of thing is not my generation don't know how to do this kind of thing. Okay. That's why we hired Mbak Zefania to deliver you the material how to make podcast, and also want to learn also Mbak Zefania today. Okay, so can I before you deliver the material, Mbak Zefania, I just want to introduce you as just short introduction to the students, ya Mbak Zefania, ya. Okay, Zefania Adriana Unique or Unique, Mbak Zefania?
Yes, Unique.
Unique, okay. Zefania Adriana Unique. She has she went to Unika Atmajaya, Jakarta. Unika is University Catholic, yeah, Catholic University Atmajaya, Jakarta. And also she went to Westphalian University. I don't know how to read this. Hochschule, Germany.
Hochschule.
Okay, Hochschule. Okay, yeah. Hochschule, Germany. And she's also now working as a content writer, MB The Notion, and she has many organization experience, including a chairwoman of Atma Radio. This is a student radio at Atmajaya University, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And also Vice President of UKM Wasa Atmajaya. Yeah. Okay. Mbak Zevanya, now time and place are yours.
Thank you so much, Mbak Melanie. Is there someone can help me to share screen? Because I have sent my PPT to the team.
Okay.
Or
Mas Arif, can you bisa dibantu Mbak Zevanya untuk bisa share screen? Dijadikan
Bu,
co-host
kirim
berarti.
aja Bu,
Kenapa?
kirim aja PPT-nya.
Oh gitu, dikirim aja ke Mas Arif. Oh, okay.
okay, I will send the link.
All right. So, you will send it to me, Mbak Zevanya, ya?
Yeah.
Okay, then I will, okay.
Okay, wait a second.
Okay.
Okay, I've sent it to Mbak Melanie through WhatsApp. Have you received?
Yes, Mas Arif. And then I extend it to Mas Arif.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Zevanya. Mbak Zevanya, our summer course students, I don't know, the amount of participants who register was 243, and they came from 9 countries, and of course, but most of them are Indonesian, and the Indonesian also come from many universities, and also not universities. There are also some professionals. Yeah, from university, 27 universities, Mbak Zevanya, from UI, USU,
Wow,
yeah,
it's an honor.
even Unhas, yeah, Universitas Jambi, Unila, and also professionals, researcher from BRIN, and also lecturer from UNAIR, yeah. So yeah, quite diverse participants today, Mbak Zevanya.
Thank you, it's an honor for me.
Yeah. Another for us to have you today, Mbak Zevanya. Yeah.
Thank you.
Alright, Mas Arif, gimana? Sudah bisa di share? You know, because you are using Canva, ya, Mbak Zevanya, ya?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't know, not sure if I can share it because I don't know how to use Canva. You know, old-fashioned people.
It's fine, I understand. Okay. Can you do the share screen?
Yeah, Mas Arif still try.
Okay.
Wait, darling.
Okay, so I think while waiting for Mas Arif, maybe I would like to greet all of the participants here. Hello, guys. Okay. 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 I hope today we can do two-way communication. So is it free for you guys if you want to raise your hand, or maybe you want to share your opinion as well? You can do it through the chat room. So please, maybe you want to give me some reactions or whatever it is. Don't make me feel alone here, okay? Or
yeah,
maybe,
right.
Yeah. And do we have a Q&A section as well, Mbak Melina?
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
Mbak. Yeah.
Okay. And for the Indonesian people, I think it's also fine if you guys want to ask me with Indonesian language. Is it allowed?
No.
No. Okay, I'm sorry.
They are forced to use English because this is international program.
Okay, it's okay, guys. We can do it together. It's fine. Mas Arif, can you do the share screen?
or maybe Mas Arif, if it is bit difficult to do that, maybe just leave it to Mbak Zevanya to share screen, Mas Arif, atau gimana?
Oke.
Udah ya?
Ya. Okay, thank you so much, Mas Arif and Mbak Meilani. And hello everyone, good afternoon, selamat sore. I would like to greet all of the participants here through from the other country as well. Welcome to Indonesian webinar, perhaps. Yeah,
Summer course program, Mbak.
Sorry?
Summer course program.
Okay, summer course program. This is a very interesting activities, I think. And I would like to introducing myself again. Okay, from Pakistan. Hi, Muhammad Sikandar. Thank you for coming. And maybe I have to introduce myself first to get to know me better. My name is Zevanya. I'm still a student in Atmajaya. I'm a communication student. I'm still doing my bachelor's degree, and hopefully soon, I really hope I can continue my master degree. But I'm still focusing doing my thesis. So yeah, hopefully I can finish it as fast as I can. And now it is an honor to me to share this topic about podcast production, how to make podcasts. I'm sure all of you guys already know what is podcast, and you must be familiar about podcasts, but I'm not sure if you guys know how to make podcasts. That's why we are here now. And before I start, I would like to ask you, does anyone here ever make podcast before? You can raise your hand, or maybe just write it on the chat room if you, yeah, okay, yes, wow. So basically you guys have known how to make podcasts, right?
Yeah, maybe
Oh, no.
Mbak Zevanya, maybe the one who said yes, they are also students from last year.
Yeah, maybe they're on my generation, yeah, Gen Z. Okay, can you show the slide again?
Mas Arif, menghilang ya?
Okay, maybe. Okay. Okay, so for you guys who ever make podcasts, what do you think about podcasts? Is it hard to make podcasts? Can you share your opinion? Or is it fun to make podcasts? Okay, can someone respond me?
Maybe Daniel? Daniel, you made podcast last year.
Awkward at
Daniel
first,
James
I know,
from
depends
Malaysia.
on content. I think it's a challenge to make podcasts. Yeah, it is. But in the end, it's fun. Yeah, it's true. I think it should be fun. Yes, I agree with all of your opinion. So I think you can answer that question after I finish my presentation about how to make podcast or podcast production. So now we're moving to what we're gonna talk today. So there are three steps to make podcasts. The first one is pre-production. The second one is production, and the last one is post-production. Maybe if you see these steps, you can say that, okay, it's not that difficult, but we'll see. Okay, let's move to the first part, pre-production. Can you go to the next slide? It is easy when we know the rules and knowing what we want to inform and what we want to purpose. Yes, I agree with you, Jenny. Depends on creativity, maybe. Yeah, you have to be creative when you have when you make podcasts. Okay, so on pre-production, there are a lot of things that you have to prepare. As the name of the first part is pre-production. So you have to prepare for the topic, the genre of your podcast, the format, podcast segmentation, the podcast name, podcast description, segment or program podcast, schedule and duration. And then the last one is cover artwork channel podcast. So this is all the things that you have to be concerned on the pre-production. Okay, you may do a screenshot, or maybe you want to take notes. It's also fine. Okay, let's move to the next slide. I'm gonna tell you one by one. The first one is the topic. Okay, before you start to make podcasts, you have to decide what topics that you wanna discuss along the episodes on your podcast. So determine the big theme that will be discussed in the podcast. For example, you have decided that the topic of your podcast is about maybe about love. Let's take a simple topic, okay? Maybe about love. So along the episodes that you will present on your podcast, it should be about love. So love is the big theme on your podcast. Okay? And then the next one is the genre. After you decide what topic that you will discuss on your podcast, what type of podcast that you want? Is it horror, comedy, romance, financial, about lifestyle, about education, about sports, you name it, guys. Okay, it's up to you. Make sure that you are into the genre. Okay, for example, if you're not a funny person, don't ever you dare to make a comedy podcast. Okay, because it will make your audience not interested to hear your podcast. Okay, so make sure when you decide what genre that you want to choose, you have to fit with the genre. Okay, you know yourself, so be careful when you choose the genre. Okay, and then the next one is format podcast. Do you prefer to talk alone? Maybe you want to do a monologue podcast, or maybe you want to be a storyteller. For example, maybe you will gain some stories from your audience, and then you will retell the story. Then you will be a storyteller podcast. Or maybe you are prefer doing a conversational podcast. So you have it must be two announcers. So you have partner to do the discussion or do the conversation. Or maybe it's just you as the announcer. So you have to invite some guests to come to your podcast to do the conversation. So you can decide, guys, and on this part, what topic. The first one is the topic. What topic that is that you wanna produce on your podcast, and then what type of genre and the format of your podcast. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, next is segmentation. In this part, we're talking about the target audience. When you make podcasts, it's not only about your program, but also about the audience. Who is your audience? Okay, so you may know how to make the podcast. For the target audience, you can decide what age that you want to be your audience. For example, I want to make a podcast about love, and the genre is about I want to educate all of the young generation to have a healthy relationship, perhaps. And you have to decide what age. For example, from 18 until 23 years old. And then your podcast is reversed to all the genders. So man, woman, all gender are allowed. And then the location. If you want to make a podcast, for example, it's only for Indonesian. The location is for the Indonesian. So you may know, like Indonesian people are more likely to hear Indonesian podcasts, for example, because maybe it is easier for them to hear the conversation, so you can fit your audience. You can make the podcast with Indonesian language, but if the location may be overseas, you want to share your podcast, you want the listeners until some other countries, you have to speak in English, of course, something like that. So the segmentation are the most important thing for you to know who is your target audience. And also favorite topics. You have to know, like, if you choose 18 years old until 23 years old, what kind of topics that are related to them, so they can be interested to hear your podcast, to listen to your podcast. Okay. Next, this is the I think this is the crucial part for me. No. Go back to the previous slide. Okay. Yes, podcast name. You have to name your podcast. Choose a name that is unique and match with the identity of your podcast channel. And also, it would be better if you have a reason why you name the podcast like that. Okay. And also, I think the name of your podcast, it can be the first thing that can make the audience come to your podcast, because sometimes when you make a unique name on your podcast, people feel curious about why the name is like this. So okay, I think I'm gonna listen to this podcast, something like that. So this is also another important thing for you to decide what name that you want on your podcast. For example, Podcast Campus Digital Creative. So the owner of Podcast Campus, they named the podcast with Podcast Campus. Why? Maybe it because it is easier to reach out all the college students, because the target audience is college student, so they name the podcast with Podcast Campus, so it's easier for them to reach out the college student to come to our podcast. Okay. And next, the description. So after you decide what name of your podcast, the description is also important, because it should be describes the podcast channel and catch the attention of potential listeners. And also, it is better if the listeners, your listeners, know who are you. For example, Podcast Campus Digital Creative. We have a description that the biggest community podcast over all the university. So Podcast Campus is like a big bowl for all the university that have a podcast community. So through all the university, you can come to Podcast Campus to maybe present your podcast and something like that. So description is also important. But I think for the description, don't make it too long. Just make it simple words, but it clicks with your audience. Okay. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Please tell me if I tell you the material too fast. Okay. Okay. Next, segment and program podcasts. And it is better, guys, when you have podcasts, you have segmentation on your program. For example, you want to make a horror podcast, and your target audience is college student. You want to talk about university, like house life as a college student and so on, but the genre is horror. And you can make a segment. For example, you want to make 2 segments. The first segment, you will discuss about the urban legend, about the horror story that are legendary through your university. For example, in my university, there is a urban legend that is very famous on my university. And on that first segment, you will discuss about that. And then the second segment, you will share about the horror experience in the university. On that part, you can share your own experience. Like maybe, yeah, I have saw something and so on. You can share your story. So yeah, you can design, but I think this is optional. If you want to do it, do it. If you want to do it on your podcast, it's also fine. Okay. But it is better to make your podcast more unique. And next, the schedule and duration. After you decide all the topics, genre, the name of your podcast, don't forget to schedule and set the duration for your podcast. Estimate, okay. When you make a podcast, it is better if you don't make it too long, because some people they are easily to get boring when they hear to the podcast that is very long. So it is better if you just make the podcast 15 minutes. 15 minutes is I think the best one, the best choice. And if you have to make a podcast like overtime that 15 minutes, 20 minutes is the maximum. 20 minutes is the maximum for you to make the podcast. Don't ever try to make the podcast more than 20 minutes, because I'm pretty sure the listeners won't listen until the end of your podcast. Okay, 20 minutes it's already includes the bumper intro, the core of your podcast, the closing, and also the bumper outro. Okay, so you have to make sure that your podcast is not too long. Okay, if you can make the podcast only 15 minutes, that is better. Okay, that is better. It's already included with the bumper intro, the core of your podcast, the closing, and also the last one, the bumper out. Okay, so remember, please take notes. This is the most important thing. It's 15 minutes until 20 minutes. It's also, that is the best time to make podcasts. Okay. And what if you make the podcast less than 15 minutes? That is also fine, but don't make, you have to make sure that all the information that you want to present to your audience, it's all already includes in the podcast. So don't be too focused with the duration. Like you want to make a podcast only 10 minutes, but the core of your podcast, like the topic, all the information, it can be delivered. It can be delivered like it can be delivered to your audience very well. Okay. Because when you make podcasts, the first thing that you want to do is deliver information to your audience. Okay, when you want to press the time, make sure that the information is delivered very well. Okay, and the schedule. You can decide on what dates or what time you have to upload your podcast. You can do a little research first. For example, your target audience is workers. So you know that they finish their work at 6 p.m. or maybe at 5 p.m. So you can upload your podcast maybe at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. It's up to you. So you have to do a little research first through your target audience. Okay. And the last one on pre-production is cover artwork channel. So poster is the first thing that can attract your audience, because people when see some poster that is unique or maybe especially about your design. You have to design the poster in a unique way, and of course, it should be describes the identity of your podcast. Okay, so it should be unique and also describes the identity of your podcast. For example, you want to make a podcast about university's life, how's life as a college student. So when you make the cover artwork, the poster of your podcast, maybe you can put some elements like books, or maybe a building that describes a university, and so on. So you have to show the audience that this is a podcast for a college student, something like that. Or maybe you want to make a podcast about love, and for young generation, perhaps you can put love elements, and also you can give a tagline as well on your poster with words that is related with the young generation. Okay, because as you can see here, you have to be focused or be concerned with the colors, with the pictures, wording, and so on. Okay, and next, now we're moving to the production session. Okay, there is a lot of things that you have to do on the pre-production, but on production, it's not as much as the pre-production session. Okay, because this is the one thing that needs to be prepared before recording. Of course, the first one, you have to make the script of your podcast. Okay, but if you already be the professional podcaster, it is okay for you to just make the discussion points. But for the beginner, I recommend you to make the script, like the whole script. Okay, you can make from the opening, and then from the greetings, when you present the guests, when you want to do the bridging through the core of your podcast until you closing, you have to make the whole script. Okay, and what do you need through the production session? You have to prepare the microphone, of course, and then the mixer, laptop, and the digital audio workstation. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay, these are the types of microphone that you can use to make a podcast. On the left side, this is dynamic microphone, like a basic dynamic. Like a basic microphone. And on the right side, this is a condenser microphone. I think it doesn't matter what type of microphone that you want to use, but if you want to use the condenser mic, make sure that you are in a small room, or maybe in a studio. It is better because this microphone is more sensitive, and it is very easy to get a noise from in your room. Okay, so make sure if you want to use the microphone on the right side, you are in a small room or in a studio, it's better. Okay, and what if you don't have any microphone? It's also fine. You still can make the podcast. You can make the podcast through your phone, through your cell phone. Just open your voice notes or recordings. I don't know, whatever it is. You just record. Just try to start. Okay, just try to start. And if you want to have a better quality for your podcast, you can use an earphone. Okay, you can use an earphone. And make sure you have to hold the microphone, okay? Because sometimes if you didn't hold the small part, you know, on your earphone, it can give you some noise perhaps and so on. So it is better if you use use earphone for a better quality, but don't forget to hold the microphone part. Okay, if you don't have earphone, it's also fine. As I said before, just do it with your cell phone, and make a little space. Don't put your phone too close with your mouth, but make a little space, okay, to make sure that the voice is better. Well, we can go to the next slide. Okay, the next one is mixer. It is useful for connecting a mic to a laptop that has an application or DAW installed. Okay, so if you guys doing the recording with the microphone, it is better if you have a mixer as well. So you can connect your microphone with the mixer and connect again with your laptop. But if you don't have the mixer, it's fine. You don't have to buy it. Just do it with your phone. But mixer is also it can produce a better voice because it can mix your voice, and there are some stuff that can control your voice and so on. And make sure if you want to use the mixer, you already have the application or the digital audio the DAW. I forgot the name. We will discuss about this DAW on the next slide. And make sure that you have the application first. This one is the digital audio interface or DAW. So this is the software that is used to record and edit the audio files. For example, if you see this picture, this is Audacity. Audacity is the application or platform to edit your audio files. Okay. There are a lot. There are several platforms that you can use. For example, Audacity, Adobe Audition, and etc. Okay. You also can download anchors. If you know, you just have to record your voice and it can be produced on your anchors. Okay. But it is better if you have this digital audio interface, because you can edit your audio first. Maybe you want to readjust some noise on your podcast, or maybe there is a space or a little interlude, you can edit in Audacity or Adobe Audition. Because when you make podcasts, this is a tips for you guys. Don't ever leave a little space or maybe a little interlude on your podcast, because it can make your audience feel boring or not interested to listen to your podcast. If you want to give a little space, it is better if you give just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Don't ever give any space from 2 until 5 minutes. No. That is a bad idea, okay? Because to make your audience sustain to listen to your podcast, it is really important, because the purpose to make podcast is giving the information to your audience, okay? So this application is really helpful for you to edit your podcast in a better way. And you also can put a music background on your podcast. Maybe sometimes for you guys who love to listen to podcasts, maybe sometimes you listen to a podcast that has a music background. Yeah, you can put it in this application. Okay. How to do it? Okay. I don't have enough time to show to you guys how to do it, but it is really easy. You just have to click file and then add file new and then add some files, add your audio files, and it will be automatically come to your screen, and you just have to cut one by one if you want. And if you want to put a music background, you have to download it first from YouTube, and then just put it on the Audacity or Adobe Audition. You can watch on YouTube if you want to do it. Just search how to use Adobe Audition or how to use Audacity. They will give you this how to sorry, I forgot the words, but yeah, they will give you a video how to do it, so don't worry, guys. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Now we have moved to the post-production. What are the steps? So after you finish the recording, the audio file will be saved or will be exported in a WAV format. But after you do all the cut session, and then you have reduce the noise, or maybe you want to put some effects on your podcast, don't forget to insert intro bumpers and outro bumpers. What is bumper? Bumper is like the audio that will be present through all of your episodes. This is the identity of your podcast. So when your listeners play to your podcast, they will listen to the bumper first. Okay, after they listen to the bumper, the announcer, they will do the opening, like, hello, good afternoon, welcome to blah 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 podcast with me, Zevanya, as the announcer in Podcast Campus Digital Creative. So today we're gonna talk about blah 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 blah, and then after that you do the discussion and then close the podcast. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to listen to the other episode, blah 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 blah, and you have to put the outro bumper. So the steps are put the intro bumper first. You can make the bumper, and then greet your audience, and then do the discussion of your podcast, like, or maybe you want to be a monologue podcast, a solo podcast. You just have to give the information, like what you want to discuss, what you want to tell to your audience, and then closing your podcast. Give the conclusion of your podcast first, like what have you discussed about this on this episode, and then close your podcast, like thank you, and give the outro bumpers. And don't forget, before you save all the audio files, do the preview. You have to preview from the beginning through the end. Okay, it is really important to make sure that is your podcast ready or not. Okay, and when you export your audio files, make sure that the format is MP3. Okay, for uploading. And to be the backup of your podcast, it should be WAV format. Okay. So we can move to the next slide. Okay. Podcast distribution. What kind of platforms that can be used to distribute your podcast? There are several platforms: Anchor, SoundCloud, Castbox, Spoons, YouTube. But the most famous platforms for podcaster is Anchors. It is really easy to use this platform, Anchors. You can use it. You also can record your voice in Anchor's platform. And yeah, after you record, you can just upload it in Anchors. So there are a lot of platforms that you can use. It's up to you. You decide. Okay, next. Okay, so I have a challenge for all of the audience here. Let's do the opening podcast. One thing that I want to share here, when you do the opening, you have to make sure that it will attract your audience. So don't ever try to open your podcast like this. Hello, Inside listeners. Welcome back with me, Zevanya on 10. No. If I listen to the podcast with the opening like that, your listeners will stop the podcast and move to the other podcast. Okay, so make sure that you are welcome. You are welcome your listeners. You have to be friendly with your listeners. It is really important. Okay, so I will give you an example, and after I give the example, if some of you want to try to do the opening, just raise your hand. I will choose. Okay. Okay. I will give you the example. Hello, Inside listeners. Welcome back with me, Zevanya, on 10 Minutes Inside Out podcast. Let's talk inside out. So in this episode, we are going to talk about something related to sustainability. I'm really glad to be here today because this discussion will be so interesting. And now I'm not alone here because we have our special guest today from Baby Food Happy Company. And I will give you guys a brief explanation about the company. Okay? Just do it until that part. Okay, guys? Who wants to try? Just do it with your personality. Like as the announcer, you have to know what type of announcer that you are. Okay, so you have to present the podcast with your character as the announcer. Okay, but don't forget, you have to be friendly with your audience, and you have to welcome your listeners and make sure that they will listen to your podcast until the end. So the way you talk in your podcast, it's really important. Okay, who wants to try? You can raise your hand. Okay, Dewi Sakina. Hello. Thank you for raising your hand. May I know from which university are you?
I'm from IPB University.
Hi, IPB student.
Yes.
Okay. You want to do you want me to give you a time to prepare, or
I think I'll try it now.
okay, go on.
Okay. Hello, Inside Out listeners. Welcome back with me, Ina, on 10 Minutes Inside Out podcast. Let's talk inside out. So, in this episode, we are going to talk about something related to sustainability. I'm really glad to be here today because this discussion would be so interesting. We have our special guest today from Baby Food Happy Company. I will give you guys a brief explanation about the company.
Okay, thank you, Dewi Sakina. Like as you listen to how Dewi present this podcast, we can know that Dewi is like maybe it's like an independent woman, because the way she talked through the podcast, it's a little bit serious, but still feel welcome through the listeners. Okay, thank you, Dewi. Okay, who else wants to try? Maybe the guys here. Okay, maybe while we're waiting for the others, can someone guess what type of podcast is this? Like the genre. What is the genre of this podcast? Can you guess? When you see that the topic is about sustainability and they have guests from a company, what type of genre is this podcast? Educational, that's right. Thank you, Lulu, Hiswari. Yes, that's right. So if we break down again with the pre-production session, the topic is about sustainability. They will talk about sustainability. And the genre is about education. Okay. And maybe the target audience is for college student until until major people, we don't know, but yeah, you can see when you hear through this podcast, this is type of education podcast. Okay, so who else wants to try? I'm still waiting. One more people. Okay, Dava. Hi, Dava.
Okay, hello.
Hello. Are you from IPB University as well?
Yes, same with Dewi Sakina from IB
Okay.
University.
Okay. Do you want me to give you a second or just do it? You want to do it now?
I think just did right now because I've tried before.
Okay, cool. The time is yours.
Okay. Hello. Wait. Hello, Inside listeners. Welcome back with me, Dafadin, on 10 Minute Inside Our podcast. Let's talk Inside Out. So in this episode, we are going to talk about something related to sustainability. I'm really glad to be here today because this discussion will be so interesting. We have our special guest today from Baby Food Happy Company. I'll give you guys a brief explanation about the company.
Wow, thank you, Dafa. It's really a great opening because you are really friendly. The way you present, you are very welcoming the audience. And it's okay to read the script slowly, okay? But I know maybe you feel a little bit nervous, but it's fine. It's fine. At least you have tried and it is really good. Thank you, Dafa. Okay, there is one more people who wants to try. Intan.
Yes, I want to try it.
Hello. Are you coming from the same university?
No, I'm from Andalas University.
Okay, welcome. Okay, you want to do it now?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, go on.
Hello, Inside Out listeners. Welcome back with me, Intan, on 10 Minutes Inside Out podcast. Let's start Inside Out. So, in this episode, we are going to talk about something related to sustainability. I'm really glad to be here today because this discussion would be so interesting. We never our special guest today from Baby Food Happy Company. I will give you guys a brief explanation about the company. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Intan. What a good opening. Thank you so much. So basically, Intan, Dava, and Dewi, they have present the opening very well and very friendly. And this is what you have to do when you open your podcast to make sure that your listeners will listen to your podcast until the end. Okay, I hope all of you guys can do the same thing with these three people. And I think it's all from me. Maybe we can go to the next slide. Okay, actually, I still have another example, but I think we don't have to do this. We can go to the next slide. Okay, let's make a podcast. So you guys have the assignment, right? That you have to make a podcast. So I hope what I have shared with you guys, like the podcast production, from the pre-production to the production and to the post-production session, you can understand all of the steps, and it is very welcome for me to receive any question. You can give me any question if there are still something that is you don't understand. And don't forget, when you make a podcast, decide what topic, genre, format podcast, and all the steps that I have shared to you. Okay. And yeah, this is a challenge that I want to give you, but when Mbak Melanie told me that you already have the assignment, so I think you can applicate all of my all of the theory that I have tell you on the through your assignment. Okay, so good luck on making your podcast about. Sorry, I forgot the topic, but hopefully you can do it. Okay, very well. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry if there's any mistakes or something that is you don't understand. I'm really sorry. And Q&A are really open. Thank you.
Oke, thank you. Big applause for Mbak Zevanya ya. Terima kasih Mbak Zevanya. Mungkin saya mau bertanya, I want to ask first Mbak Zevanya. Okay, this assignment, this podcast assignment for them, we give it a group podcast, okay? And they of course, because this is an online summer course, they can't gather together to do this podcast. So there may be Asif in Pakistan, Dewi Sakina from IPB, and then Intan from Andalas. Okay, so please give us the way how to do it in this situation. Okay, how to do it best with our limitation. Thank you, Mbak Zevanya.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Melanie, for the question. So I always do the recording podcast. So I was in a group in my community podcast in my university, and it was the pandemic. So we can't meet with each other. We have to do the recording of the podcast by online. And if I can give you what I have experienced, you can do it by Zoom platform, or maybe by what is the platform? Wait, Zoom, or maybe Google Meet, whatever it is. Discord, yeah, thank you, Bang Radar. Yeah, Discord. So you can use Zoom, Discord, or maybe Google Meet, but I recommend you guys to use Zoom or Discord. Okay, and after that you can record the conversation and save the audio files. Okay, and when you do the recording, make sure that you use the earphone for a better quality. Okay, so it's not a big deal if you can meet each other, because you can do it by online through Zoom or Discord. It is fine. It's totally fine. But maybe you have to be more focused when you edit the podcast, because when you do it by online, maybe there will be some noise. So it is important for you guys to have the application as well, like Adobe Audition or Audacity. I think it is better for you to have that application to edit your podcast. Okay, so remember, you can use the platform by Zoom or Discord, and then after you save your audio files, you put it to the Adobe Audition or the Audacity. And then after that, you can save it and you can produce your podcast to Anchors. Okay, and maybe if I may ask, they will make the podcast and do they have to upload the podcast through Anchors, or it's just like the assignment for the university? Mbak Melanie, you haven't unmute your microphone.
Sorry. Yeah, because this is just assignment, and then we want to make a fun assignment and more, nowadays assignment rather than making paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, we want to and this is to encourage everybody to socialize with other participants. Yeah, so we will not force them to upload it to Anchors like a real podcast, yeah, but just for the sake of assignment.
Okay. Then you don't have to upload it to Anchors. So you just have to, maybe not all of people here have Discord. So it is better if you use Zoom platforms, because I always do the recording for my podcast with Zoom. So because from Zoom platform, you can save just the audio files. You don't have to save all of with the picture and so on. And if I can give you a tips, when you do the recording through the Zoom, you have to on your camera. Why you have to on your camera? Because you have to see how is the expression from your partner. So it is better for you to, when you talking with someone, it is better if you can see how is their expression. Okay, that's why I always recommend all of the people for if they do the recording by online, you have to turn on your camera, because you can see maybe their expression while talking. It's just like, yeah, blah 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 blah. It is better if you can be friendly to each other, for the quality of your podcast, of course. It's not for you, but for the quality, because you will feel that you're not alone when you talk. It is really different if you talking with someone, you just see their name. It is better if you can see their face. So when you doing the recording, make sure you turn on your camera, you use your microphone with your earphones, perhaps. It is better. Okay. And yeah, I think that's all you can do by online. It's fine. You don't have to meet offline.
Of course, yeah. So no worries. Then you don't have a condenser mic. You don't have
No,
to have a mixer. Yeah. So no worries about that. Yeah.
yeah, it's fine. If you want to have with if you want for a better quality, just use the earphone. It's also better.
All right. Okay. Let's open the Q&A. Please, anybody wants to ask Zefania? Okay, maybe you can just ask Zefania, yeah, directly. Or do you want me to read your question? Okay, maybe Dafa, just ask Zefania.
Okay, thank you, madam. I just want to ask about how to make a unique bumper intro. Meanwhile, this podcast just did at once, and this podcast only sound without animation, without our video like that, and how to choose a unique initial bumper sound, even it's only 15 minutes. How can we interest our podcast like that? Meanwhile, just at once. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dava, for the question. So when you make a bumper intro, especially for the beginning part, you have to be creative. Let's prove it to your listeners that you are a really creative people. And your bumper intro, it should be describes the identity of your podcast. So it should be, for example, you want to make a podcast that is a storytelling podcast, for example. And the name of your podcast. Once I have podcast named Mari Bercerita, and when we make the bumper intro, you can put something maybe that is famous these days. Okay, so it is ear catching with your listeners. So to make it unique, don't make it too long for your bumper intro, because you just have 15 minutes, right? I think for bumper intro, 20 seconds is enough for bumper intro. You just have to mention the name of your podcast and also put the tagline of your podcast, and you can give something that is maybe famous in these days. For example, all of people here knows Bunda Korla, right? For Indonesian people, maybe, yeah. You can use her words maybe on your bumpers, just to make your audience feel interest to your podcast. But it's up to you. I can't say anything, because when you make podcasts, you have to be creative, especially when you make the bumper. You can do a different voice, for example, your voice is really important when you make the bumper. Maybe you want to be a Donald Duck voice, or maybe a Mickey Mouse voice, something like that. You have to, this is the challenge. You have to attract your audience with your voice, only with your voice. Try, explore, brainstorm any ideas that can make your listeners interest to listen to your podcast. So, but don't forget to put that 3 important things: the name of your podcast, tagline of your podcast, and the last one, whatever you name it. You can give any jokes or whatever it is to interest, to make your audience interest with your bumper. Okay. I hope you feel satisfied with the answer. How, Dava?
Okay, thank you for the answer. I think your answer is very sufficient to answer my
Yeah.
question.
And maybe you can discuss with your team. Okay, you can discuss with your team. Just give any ideas, and you can just combine it together. Okay, good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Mbak Zevanya, can we pick something from the internet for the bumper? Some, some song, something,
Yes,
short
of
part of
course.
song, something like that.
Of course. It is better if you can put the music background as well, but make sure the copyright. Okay,
Yeah,
you have to be careful with that. Okay, so it is better if you already download the music first, or maybe just find a music background maybe on YouTube, but put no copyright. Okay, that I think you can do it with that sound from the internet, but make sure there's no copyright. You can put that word, no copyright, because I always do that. if you, because copyright is really,
yes.
you
Okay.
have to be concerned with that.
Alright.
Just put, for example, maybe you want to search like a jazz acoustic music background, no copyright, like that on YouTube, and they will show you a lot of videos. You just have to download it.
Oh,
And
that's the keyword, yeah.
the keyword.
The keyword in YouTube that we can,
Yeah.
that we can choose to pick from that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Lulu, you want to ask Zefania directly, Lulu?
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask the difference between interview and then conversation podcast because I think they are pretty similar in concept. So this is kind of intrigues me. Are the different lies on the atmosphere or maybe the topic? And my second question is kind of technical because I used Audacity before, and then when I tried to reduce the outside noise, my voice also gotten quieter. And when I raise the volume, that outside noise will come back. So how can I deal with that kind of situation? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lulu. What a questions. Well, what is the difference between interview and conversational podcast? Okay, so interview podcast, you are interviewing your guests. Okay, so when you are the announcer of interview podcast, you are the host. You are the host, and you have a guest, and when you do the interview, you have to put a lot of questions, and maybe I would say you are the one who always give the questions to your guests, and your guests, their job is just have to give the information or maybe do a little small talk. But the point is you are interviewing him or her. Okay, you want to know something about your guests, or maybe about like, for example, the script example that I gave to you, that is interview podcast. Okay, that is interview podcast because the announcer, hello, welcome to blah blah blah, and we have our guest. And if you see the whole script, we are the host or the announcer. They ask a lot about the company, like what is baby food company? Oh, how's life? What you have to decide when you have problem like this blah 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 blah. That is interview podcast. But conversation podcast, I would say that there must be two announcers, so you do the conversation, you're not alone. For example, the podcast is about love. Why always love? Maybe the podcast is about university, college students' life. Okay, and the announcer, they are a college student, and you just have to do the conversation podcast, not interview the person. You have to share to each other. And it is true, the atmosphere also different, because when you do the interview podcast, you will ask the person, and maybe it is more formal because you are interviewing someone. And when you do the conversation, you have to share to each other, like maybe you ask your partner, like, what do you think about university these days? I think university these days, blah 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 blah. And do you know that many people choosing doing their class online rather than offline? Oh, I don't know about that, blah blah. So you're doing a conversation, like the two announcers, they give the impact like to each other, like the questions, the first announcer give the question and the second also give another question. But for interviewing a podcast, the host has the job to give a lot of questions to our guests, and our guests, they don't have to give a question to our to the host. Okay, so the atmosphere is also different, but I think the topic, no, it's up to the podcast team. It's not a big deal for the topic. The topic is universal, I think. all kind of podcasts can choose any topic. And about the Audacity, I try to reduce the outside noise. Then okay, so I don't know how to explain it, but if you see you have to separate the audio if you want to do the noise reduction, because but this is the different case here, right? So I think it's automatically. This is automatically because when you talk, there is a way to do the noise reduction, but you can watch on YouTube, I think. I don't know how to explain it here because there is no platform. Yeah, I think that's it is better for you to watch on YouTube how to do it, because when you want to do the noise reduction, especially when you do it by online, with the microphone, when you want to do the noise reduction, don't ever try to lower your voice or to do the volume up to your voice. No, because it's not working. The thing that you have to do is, I think that there is a shortcut to separate your audio, and yeah, you can watch it on YouTube, I think, because it's hard to explain it without the application. Okay, Lulu, how the answer for the first and second question?
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. I think, yeah, I get it now. Thank
I
you.
hope it's satisfied.
It is.
But I'm really sorry for the second question. I can't give you any
maybe better.
example.
Yep. Maybe
Okay, it's
better.
okay.
See in YouTube, and then with the application open, technically it will be easier to see.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Question from Muhammad something because I can't see your
Muhammad
name.
Naufal.
Muhammad Naufal. Okay, Naufal.
Ya, halo.
Josephanya.
Halo.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the talking time for podcast, Kak. If you can see from my chat, for example, if you are going to make a trio podcast in 9 minutes, does each person have to talk like 3 minutes to make an ideal podcast, or we don't have to? Gitu? Thank you, Kak.
No. Okay, thank you for the question. No, you don't have to do that, and don't ever make podcasts while you're talking. You give the time like for each person. Okay, you just have to talk for 3 minutes. No. The thing when you make podcasts, you have to do the conversation that is comfort. That is comfort your the way you bring the podcast, and also make sure that the listeners will feel comfort when they listen to your podcast. So if you do with this 3 minutes talking, what do you think if you are the listeners? I think you won't get the information from your podcast, or maybe you cannot enjoy your podcast because when you make a podcast, do a conversation. It also happen with the monologue podcast. If you're alone when you make a podcast, do a conversation with your listeners. Okay, don't ever, when you make podcasts, you talk alone. No one want to hear you if you do that. Okay, no one will hear you, because when you make podcasts, the purpose is you give them something. Okay, again, I have to tell you that don't be too focused with the time, focus with your information, focus with have you give them the information very well or not. Okay, and it is also important to be concerned with the time, but don't be too focused with the time until you didn't care about the information. Okay, so just do your conversation as comfort as you are. And if your podcast is more than 9 minutes, maybe it's fine. You can cut your podcast. That's why you need the application to edit. Maybe when you talking, sometimes there is part that is not necessary to present on your podcast. So when you edit your podcast, you can decide which part maybe that is not important or maybe not necessary to be uploaded on your podcast. Okay, but when you do the recording, just enjoy the conversation. Okay, just enjoy the conversation. Don't give a time for each person. No, do it conversationally. Okay, if it's more, you can cut your podcast. Okay, you can cut your podcast. Which part is necessary, which part is not necessary, you decided with your team. Okay, I think that's it. So don't ever do this, guys.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Zevanya. So Dewi Sakina wants to ask you. Dewi have question for Mbak Zevanya.
Yes, Miss.
Yeah.
So actually I like to make video, like various kind of video, but I always hate to talk directly into the camera, and I kind of get like a stage fright, and I usually kind of flat when I hosting a video or even just talking with friends. Like that's my natural pembawaan.
Yes.
Yeah, and they always say like you don't have any emotion and etc. And when I try your challenge, it's the first time I feel confident with my own skin, my own voice, my own way of hosting, and also the first time I kind of succeed to switch character to the host persona. My question is, how can I maintain that host character? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dewi, for the question. What a question. For me, character, there are a lot of characters. It's not when you bring your podcast, when you talk on your podcast, you have to decide what characters that you want on your podcast. Like you have to decide what type of announcer are you. Okay, and when you talk on your podcast, you will show to your listeners who are you as the announcer. And it's also good, it's good for you to listen to someone's opinion about you, but you have I mean, like this, character is not only friendly. Okay, character is not only friendly, you can build what kind of character you want to present. For example, if you know that your voice is not that high to be that friendly people, you can make a podcast or maybe a video, as you have said that you like to make a videos. You can make something like Hello Bagas podcast. Do you know him? Hello Bagas podcast. So his podcast is not always like blah 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 blah, but he still has emotions. But how he bring the podcast, the way he bring the podcast, it's deep. So you can practice your voice. Maybe you can choose to be a deep announcer, like maybe you can discuss about, maybe you want to make about an education podcast, and you can practice your voice. If you can be that friendly announcer, you can practice your voice to be a deep podcaster, or maybe you can be a serious person, but still emotions that is need to show on your podcast. Okay, but again, the emotions, a lot. There are a lot of emotions. Okay, you can bring the emotions with a friendly. You can bring the emotions with your friendly way. You know what I mean? Like, you can be friendly, but you don't have to be her. Okay, you can be friendly, but you don't have to present it with your high voice. Okay, it depends with the way how you talk about, how you present the topic. Okay, maybe I will present you again this opening. Okay, maybe I will try to present this opening with a deeper voice, and maybe a serious podcast, but still have emotions. Let's try. Hello, Inside listeners. Welcome back to 10 Minutes Inside Out podcast. Let's talk inside out. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about something related to sustainability. I'm really glad, of course, to be here today, because this discussion would be so interesting. You know what? Because we have our special guest today from Baby Food Happy Company. I will give you guys a brief explanation about the company. Well, Baby Food Happy Company is an innovative blah 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 blah. It is different with hello Inside listeners, welcome back again in 10 Minutes Inside Out podcast. Let's talk inside out. So in this episode, we're going to talk about it's different, but maybe you can find a different emotions as well. How to do it? You can give a I'm sorry, I will say it in Indonesia, penekanan di setiap katanya. Itu bisa mempengaruhi, it can be relate with the way you present the podcast. Okay, so penekanan. Yeah,
pressure on each word, which word that you want to.
I would say pressure, but yeah, maybe that is the words. So it is important to know which part that you have to give a little press when you say the words. Okay, but it is different when you read it like this. Hello Inside listeners, welcome back to 10 Minutes Inside Out podcast. Let's talk inside out. So in this episode, we are going to talk about something related to sustainability. I'm really glad to be here today, because it's different because you don't have the intonation. Yeah, the intonation is important to give the emotions of your podcast. Okay, if you do the the intonation like always, maybe the emotion won't arrive. You can deliver the emotions very well to your listeners. So yeah, I think that's it. The intonation, that is important when you want to present your podcast. Okay, it also can describes your characters. So don't worry, you don't have to be a friendly friendly is a must, but you don't have to be friendly with high voice. Okay. I think that's all. Thank you, Dewi.
Okay, Olivia Siburian, you want to ask Mbak Zevanya about how to find the audience? Olivia, are you still here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Zevanya. You said before we have make our podcast, we have to set our audience. So I wanna ask, how your target audience can find your podcast in case you're not the only one talking about the topics.
Sorry, I didn't get it. You are not only one talking about the topic.
Yes.
What
For example, you choose talking about financial education, right? So how your audience can find your podcast, not they listen to your podcast, not to the other podcast.
Okay, so maybe we're gonna talk about how to promote your podcast, right? Okay, there are a lot of ways that you can do to promote your podcast. For me, it is helpful for you to promote your podcast from Instagram platform, for example. So, as we know that podcast is only the audio, like we only can listen to the audio, but you still have the poster, right? For the visual part. So you have to share, maybe you can share on your Insta story and so on. And you have to give a little explanation why they have to hear to your podcast. What is the different from your podcast through the other podcast? So that's why you have to be creative. You have to make something on your podcast that is the other podcast doesn't has it. Okay, it's only on your podcast. Maybe you will make little games on your podcast, or maybe you will make a this or that session on your podcast about financial education, blah blah blah. Or maybe you have a story you have a Q&A part on your podcast, like you already share your topic on your Instagram. Maybe you share with Q&A features, and you can ask your followers, like, what do you think about financial education these days, blah blah blah. And then you will read their opinion on your podcast. So that is, maybe the other podcast doesn't have that kind of creativity. So you can do it. And also, after you put that Q&A features on the last page, you can put the poster of yours, like, okay, you can listen all of your opinion in my podcast because I will read it on my podcast, something like that. Okay, you can find a lot of creative way to make listeners come to your podcast. Okay, do a little research. That's the thing. Thank you, Olivia.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. Okay, maybe just two more questions, and then we have to end this session, yeah, because it's almost Maghrib time, friends. Okay, Nilam, you want to ask Zevanya?
Okay, thank you, Madam. Before that, I want to thanks to Kak Zevanya for your amazing presentation today.
Thank you.
I really interested in this podcast and I got a lot of knowledge about podcast today. I want to ask you, Kak, how do you keep the audience listening from start to finish without letting them get bored listening to us? And how do we come up with unique ideas? Can we imitating the example of another broadcaster? And can you give a little bit tips for speech intonation so that the message we want to convey can be felt by listeners? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nilam. Well, I'm gonna read your question first. How do you keep the audience listening from start to finish without letting them get bored listening to us? And how do we unique ideas? Okay, so again, it is necessary for you if you want to keep your listeners until your last part podcast. The way you bring your podcast, the way you talk on your podcast, the way you bring the conversation, that is the key. That is the key. Like I always once I became a producer, so I always said to my announcers, keep your intonation, keep your mood on the same level from the start to the end. Okay, many people when they do podcasts, they feel they can present it friendly on the first part, like, hey, blah blah blah, okay, blah blah, but as long as they didn't realize that their the vibes is already like down. Okay, so it's hard. I know it's not easy. It's not easy to maintain your voice, to maintain your mood, to maintain the vibes still on the same level until the end. But that's the thing. That's you have a team, right? That's what team are for. So when one of people knows that your announcer partner, or when you see your announcer is already not on the same level when they present the podcast, you can remind your partner. Okay, you can remind, or maybe you can because sometimes as the listeners, you can give them your opinion because you listen to them. For the people who is talking, sometimes they didn't realize that they did it. Okay, so that's what teams are for. As a team, you have to remind to each other, like, it is okay when you do the recording, maybe you want to cut for a while just to remind your partner, like, hey, come on, ayo dong ini lagi gitu. So it is necessary to remind to each other, and it's fine. You can cut that part when you remind your, because it is podcast, not live streaming. Okay, it is podcast. You can edit, you can cut some parts. Okay, so I think the way you bring your podcast, the way you communicate with the listeners, the way you communicate to your partner announcers, that is the important thing to keep your listeners until the end. And the way you bring the topic, and also put some, maybe a little games, or maybe you have to interact with your audience also. Okay, you have to give a little interactions with your listeners. Maybe you ask your listeners, like, maybe you discuss about a horror story, you make a horror podcast, and you're talking about horror experience. In the middle of your podcast, maybe you can give a little shout, like, like, make your listeners feel, okay, what's next, and so on. Or maybe you can ask them, like, does anyone here ever see Miss K? Maybe something like that. Okay, so you can be creative on it, guys. Okay, and how do we come up with unique ideas? Do a research. Okay, do a research from, and you have to listen to the other podcasts. That is necessary. It is necessary for you guys to listen to the other podcast to be your reference. Okay, to be your reference. Okay, don't be plagiat, but just be the reference. Okay, because maybe you need some ideas from other podcasts, and then you have to hear from the other podcasts, and then you can combine all that ideas. You can do that. Okay. So listen to other podcasts that is necessary to be your references. Okay. And okay, can we imitating the example of another broadcaster? I think it's also fine, but you have to make your own character. Okay. You have to make your own character. It's fine. I think it's fine if you want to be like another broadcaster, but you have to make your own identity, your own character. What is the purpose? To make your audience knows you better, you know, to make them, for example, Nilam, you want to be an announcer who is friendly and funny. So be yourself. You have to make your own character, but you have your comedian role model. Okay, you can combine the way he or she give their jokes, but still don't ever put that character through all of your through all of your how you present the podcast. You have to show them your own character. Okay, but you can combine with your role model comedians. Maybe you can combine it. Okay. And tips for speech intonation so that the message we want to convey can be felt to listener. Intonation. Okay. You can. Okay, I will share again the script. For example, like this. Hello, Inside listeners. Why I make my voice higher? Because I'm greeting my listeners. Okay, it is necessary when you greet someone, you are happy. You are happy to have them. Welcome back to 10 Minutes Inside Out podcast. Let's talk inside out. So in this episode, we're going to talk about something related to sustainability. Why when you pronounce sustainability, you make the word like more slowly and give a little press, because that is the topic that you will be discussed. And the listeners maybe they will get it like, okay, this podcast will talk about sustainability. And I'm really glad to be here today because the discussion will be so interesting, something like that, because you want your listeners to feel interesting as well. So that's why when you pronounce interesting, when you say interesting, so it will be so interesting. Why? Because we have our special guest today from Baby Food Happy Company. So you have, maybe you can practice, do more practice. If you do more practice, you may know which part that you have to give a little press, or maybe which part you have to make your voice higher than before. You can get used to it if you do more practice. Okay, so it is necessary for you guys to practice if you want to be a podcaster. Okay, I hope you feel satisfied with all the answers, Nilam.
Okay, thank you so much, Kak, for the answer.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe last question, Daniel. Maybe short, Daniel, because it's already Azan Maghrib.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hello.
Daniel.
Hello, Daniel.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I think the first question you already answered. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. Just to ask, is it okay if we use like the voice filter because sometimes for me my problem is I am quite insecure with my voice, and then it didn't sound great to me. And then if I use a voice filter that change my voice, is it okay for the podcast, or is it like unethical? We miss.
I think it's
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's fine. It's okay if you sorry, can you listen to my voice?
Yes, yes, you can.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's fine. It's your creativity. If you want to use sound effect, it's fine. But it's also fine when you talk. You have even the professional podcaster, they did the same. They do the same because we're still learning. All of us always learning. Okay, it's fine. But how to deal with that? That's why you need the application. So when you have too long, you can edit, you can cut it. Okay, don't ever put that on your podcast. Okay, so it is necessary to edit your podcast. If you have that part or maybe a little interlude, as I said before, you have to cut it. Okay, because your listeners won't listen to that. Okay, your listeners won't listen to that. But it's fine. Don't feel insecure about that. I always, me too. I experienced this thing as well. Okay, it's fine. But this is podcast, not live streaming. You can edit, and it's fine. Okay, just do more practice. Okay, good luck, Daniel. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that's all the question, and also maybe just that's all. Yeah, no, I think no more question. And I think all of you can't wait to do this podcast project. Yeah, this is interesting, and so the nowadays youngsters, yeah, because I can see from how they ask you, Devanya, yeah.
Yeah,
They're quite apa sih namanya I don't know.
They feel interested to
Yeah. Okay, so once again, yeah, big applause for Devanya, yeah, for
thank you so much.
today's session, very interesting, and I hope everybody will have time to do this in this weekend. Okay, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We will only have one session. Yeah, one session only at Sunday afternoon about 3 p.m. That's only one session of the summer course we have. So I think you will have enough time to do this podcast with your peer groups, yeah, with your friends. And I already say to you, if you don't want to, if you are feel insecure to do it in group, you can do then monologue, yeah, monologue podcast, individual podcast, yeah, Zevanya. But I think it's even more difficult to make a monologue podcast.
Of course.
Yeah, it's even more difficult. Yeah, so yeah. No worries. If you guys already make a group of 3, so it's okay. Yeah, no worries about that. Okay, then good luck, everybody. Okay, don't forget that you have to submit your assignments by next Wednesday. All right. Okay, and then we will have again maybe Mbak Zevanya again for the workshop, for the feedback workshop.
I don't know.
Okay,
We'll see.
right. Okay. The feedback workshop will be next Saturday. Okay, next Saturday. Yeah, after we mark your assignment. Okay, everybody. Then see you again tomorrow for the 2 sessions of the 5th day. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Bye bye. Good evening, everybody. Assalamualaikum.